On this 2005 Pontiac Vibe, we're going to replace the weather stripping around the window. As you can see, it's bent in several areas around the edge. And this vehicle has a sunroof, so when the sunroof is open, all you hear is the whistling of the wind around the windows. I've rolled the window all the way down. Then I took the screw out of the door cup handle, and then the screw out behind the door handle here. Taking the door panel off and set it aside. Now we can begin to remove the weather stripping. Starting on the outermost part of the door with the window down, you can simply pull on the actual weather stripping, and you have to pull it from all the way in the bottom of the track. Pull nice and slow, and as it comes out, now the weather stripping is out. The problem is now that the glass is loose in there, you have to be very careful so that you don't shut the door or slam it, because the glass will bang into the metal. Taking the weather stripping off the rest of the way is fairly straightforward. Then you simply pull it gently down and out away from the interior of the car. In this case, it's wedged in because the way the window was riding it in correctly. You can see where the problem is in this upper corner, because they'd always crack the window to vent instead of rolling it all the way down and then back up. Over time it kept folding this rubber into itself, and it smashed this corner up beyond repair. The replacement weather stripping comes in a vacuum packaged bag from GM, and the part number on it is 88974658. So what I've done is mixed up a batch of water with a strong amount of dish soap in it, and what we're going to do is simply dump it down into the track here, right on the edge of the window, as close as you can get to the edge, and just kind of dump some in there, and it should run out the bottom. And if it does, that's a great thing, because that means that your weep holes in the bottom of the doors are working. If nothing comes out the bottom, you may have plugged holes, so you will want to clear those out. To help prepare the new weather stripping, I'm going to just take the end of it and dump it in our soapy water, and that'll help lubricate it as we try to slide it past the glass. I couldn't show you because it took both hands, but I turned the panel on and lifted the window up just a little bit. That allowed me to grasp the glass while I gently worked the weather stripping down past the glass into the actual track of the door. I went ahead and ran it down further than I needed to, so I could tuck this corner in the door and then pull the weather stripping back up just a little bit to kind of push it into the corner. Now when the weather stripping comes new, it's pretty much flat, and the idea is when you put it into the actual channel that's in the door, you squeeze it and it conforms to the door. So there's no adhesive needed to mount this into the top portion of the door. You simply pinch it and then tuck it into place, and it holds itself in. I've gotten most of the top installed. I'm going to leave this part out so I can install the weather stripping here for the front part, so that way I have flexibility to push it down into the track. And I left the front part here for last because it's the shortest piece, so hopefully it'll go in easier. Okay, I've done the same thing as I did on the other side. I've initially pushed it past where I needed to, so that way I could start to tuck the corner up and then pull it back. Weather stripping tucked into place in all the corners. So the last thing I'm going to do is take my finger, starting anywhere I can, and kind of push in there and make sure that it's seated correctly all the way around. The key here is to make sure that it's not twisted one side or the other. The first time you run the window up, it'll scrunch it and cause damage to the weather stripping. Okay, as I'm lifting the window up slowly here, I'm just making sure that everything seats into the track and the weather stripping isn't binding on anything. And the critical part is when we get to the very edge there, is to make sure that the glass doesn't pop out of the weather stripping, or that the weather stripping doesn't bind. If you're curious how the power window works, there's a motor in there that runs a mechanism to this arm here, and as the motor turns, it runs this arm into the rail, and as it slides, it actually lifts the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the motor. Everything's good, the weather stripping's tight, the window doesn't have any play in it, so everything's good. Now that we replaced this weather stripping, there's a part on the door here, this other weather stripping, and where they meet in the corners here, at the front and the rear, there's often a gap, and I found that if you use silicone or hot glue, you want to fill that in so as the water runs down the window, it doesn't run into your door, especially if it has salt or anything and it can cause the door to rust out or get in your speakers. Here above the door handle, you want to fill that gap in as well.